Today, we are interviewing Cleveland Browns YouTuber Quincy Carrier. Let's talk Browns. Quincy, welcome to the show.
Hey man, how you doing? Glad to be on here. Awesome show that you have here talking about the Lions. Glad to talk Browns and Lions, I guess.
Yeah, man. Dude, honestly, I just want to thank you for who you are and really, watching a lot of your content and seeing what you're doing for the Browns fan base. It really is awesome, and it's very inspiring being a YouTuber of a team that has struggled for so long, seeing what you're doing and how awesome your fan base really is.
Yeah, it's been a journey, right? The 18 years to get to the playoffs again, it doesn't even begin to talk about like how long has it been since the Browns have had a team with, all the things you want in place to believe that you can one day contend. Even that 2002 team didn't really have a quarterback. You weren't really sold on Butch Davis. Now we're in a part where, Kevin Stefanski looks like coach of the year. Baker Mayfield looks like a franchise quarterback. And then you have all of the support staff around them. This doesn't look like it's just going to be like a one-off year. This looks like hopefully the start of, an era of relative to maybe even great success for this franchise.
Here you are. Here is your franchise stepping into the future. This really, like you just said, this new era. Baker seems to be the real deal. Obviously, his first year in, we see the success, and then we kind of take, a step back. The Browns take a step back, and then this year really moving forward. And so my question for you right off the bat, man, what does this playoff clinch mean to you? What does it mean to be clinching the playoffs?
It means a lot of the end of a lot of what is the misery of being a Browns fan, right? It starts, and I kind of call Baker the streak killer in this way because he comes in, right, his first game, and I think people forget just how not long ago this was. Baker's first start against the Jets, the Browns hadn't won a game, I believe, like in 23 attempts or something crazy like that. They were on like a 20-something game losing streak. Baker comes in, he ends that streak. And then, he almost gets the team to 500 at the end of the season, breaks the rookie touchdown record, which has now been passed by Justin Herbert. But then as his career goes on, even last year, he's breaking certain streaks that the Browns have not done, things that the Browns have not achieved yet in this expansion era. And it just has continued on to the season where this is the most successful season the Browns have had since coming back since 1995. Not only do you make the playoffs, but you have the best regular season record. I don't know if a lot of people outside of Cleveland noticed the Browns, since they came back in 99, have not gone over 10-6. They finally got over that mark this year, and it was a lot of, fighting that same old Browns mentality, right? Where it's like, oh, it's just going to be the Browns. We're going to blow it. There are multiple times this season where the Browns could have blown it. One of the times I go back to is that Cincinnati game. If you look at it, 1 minute left, no timeouts. Baker just drives down the field, scores a touchdown to win that game at the end of regulation. That's a classic moment. Even last year, where you would not be confident the Browns would be able to make that play, and get that win, but the Browns have done that all year. So it sucks that the adversity is hitting right now when the playoffs are, right around the corner. But, I have confidence that this team can kind of bounce back and be resilient in that way.
For sure. Oh my goodness. And you know what, man, like you right off the bat, you nail it with, what does it mean to win? And you're like, it's the end of the misery. It's the end of the same old fill in the blank. That's so much of what I see here in Detroit is any given Sunday, people are just quick to, same old Lions. And so I see that in Cleveland. I've heard that in Cleveland. And that must be exhilarating to be able to take that step back and be like, it's not the same old Browns. Like, this is a new team building upon Baker and really what you guys have done. Something that you bring up in the adversity that you guys are going to deal with this weekend against the Steelers is the whole Kevin Stefanski, coaching COVID problems.
Yeah, we have like 3 coaches out. I think it's like the offensive line coach, Kevin Stefanski. I forget who the other one is, but yeah, there are a lot of coaches out, a couple of players out. But the good news is that potentially, since the game's Sunday night, not Sunday afternoon, you could get Denzel Ward back. You could get Andrew Sedeo back. You could get Malcolm Smith back. Technically, we don't know if that's going to be the case, but technically those guys, if they get through the protocol, which is not a given, they could be eligible to play. And I'm kind of on the fence with how important. Like, I get Kevin Stefanski being there has to be some levels of important, but I also think that he's a good enough coach and a smart enough coach to have built something that can work if he could not be there for a game, knowing the circumstances that he was coaching under all season. I think he's somebody who strikes me as somebody who's prepared. You know, Freddie Kitchens' thing was he was never prepared. He's the exact opposite of him, where he is prepared. And I think, you know, I would trust Kevin Stefanski's ability to prepare himself, prepare his staff, and prepare his team to go out there without him. You know, play calling, in my opinion, sometimes can get overrated. I think it only matters when somebody who's just drastically unqualified has play calling. That's the only time we talk about play calling, is when somebody who can't call plays is calling plays. But I think the majority of coaches in the NFL that have experience like Alex Van Pelt does can call plays and be competent for at least the game there. So the one that's I'm not as worried about that for this weekend. What I am worried about is Joe Bitonio being out against that Steelers defensive line. Joe Bitonio had a rough day against Cam Hayward. Not having Joe Bitonio against Cam Hayward, that's a little bit of a concern there. That's something that's going to have to be that's going to have to be game planned around. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But the one thing we know about Kevin Stefanski is that he has built a team that can overcome all kind of, you know, you look at the injuries, Odell, Nick Chubb, Wyatt Teller went out, you know, Grant Delpit, the first round pick that slid to the second round that was supposed to be your starting free safety. The one thing I can say is, yes, you would love to have a perfect week going into this game. But if there is one team I know that has fought through and overcome a disproportionate amount of adversity this season, it is this Cleveland Browns team. So in no way, just because there is some obstacles in the way for this team, do I think they're just going to roll over and get beat this weekend.
Dang, man. No, that's awesome to hear. That's really good to hear from an outside perspective. As somebody who just dabbles in watching your games but doesn't know the ins and outs like that, hearing that is very comforting, very encouraging, if you will. And speaking of encouragement, man, listen, we Lions fans need some encouragement, maybe need some words of wisdom from you, from a Browns fan, specifically in the fact that obviously we fire Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn, head coach GM, back after the Thanksgiving loss to Houston when we got rolled over. And after that, many Lions fans have been calling for their firing for the last 2 years. And specifically, what I'd like to look at is Kevin Stefanski as your head coach. What was that like bringing him in, knowing that he'd only had coordinator experience? He wasn't the head coach. He's coming from Minnesota. He comes into Cleveland because here we are in Detroit in a desperate situation. We have Matt Stafford on contract for another 2 years. Our defense is abysmal. We have so many holes to fill. And I know that a head coach doesn't just fill the gap, right? A head coach just doesn't come in and everything gets better, but rather you have that head coach GM tandem where they work together and they want to build something. And you have had the opportunity to watch Kevin Stefanski come in. How important has that been, watching him and really seeing what he's done with the pieces that were already there?
Yeah, it's been a collaborative effort. And one of the things I think is most interesting when you look at the Cleveland Browns, and I think if this turns into a little bit of a run for this franchise, I think 10, 20 years from now, we'll look at a couple of points that are very interesting in the rebuild where this thing, like I always joke, I think the Browns being this good this year is a result of somebody time traveling back and preventing a couple of things from happening that if would have happened, would have took them off course. The first thing is, when the Browns were on the verge of going 0-16 in, I believe, 2016 or 2017, the Browns actually tried to make a trade for 2 second-round picks and a third for A.J. McCarron to the Bengals. And that was to prevent going 0-16. The one thing people don't think about with that trade is the second-round pick they included in that trade would have been Nick Chubb. That's the pick they went to get Nick Chubb. So imagine what happens, right? You trade for A.J. McCarron. Let's say he wins you a game, right? You trade for A.J. McCarron. Now you don't have the pick that gets you Nick Chubb. You also Are you drafting a quarterback number 1 overall because you spent all of that? Now you might not have Baker, you might not have Josh, all of these options that were available to you, you all of a sudden don't have just because of that one decision didn't get made. Luckily, Sachi Brown, and I don't know if you guys know about this, this is a crazy story, but Sachi Brown turned in the trade paperwork at 4:05 right after the 4 o'clock deadline purposely to veto that trade because the front office, Jimmy Haslam, was going to make him do it. So he kind of put his job on the line vetoing that trade, and then he got fired for that. But when you look at it in the long run, that actually saved the franchise. Another thing that's interesting when you look at this rebuild, right? When you talk about just the randomness of chaos and how things just go the right way and you don't know it. Kevin Stefanski was recommended by Paul DePodesta to be hired by this team last year when they hired Freddie Kitchens. That was the recommended hire that Paul DePodesta pushed for. John Dorsey did not want to hire Kevin Stefanski. Then we know what Freddie did his first year. Did not have a great first year. Showed some incompetencies at the position. Got fired. But the reason John Dorsey got fired along with him is because John Dorsey was saying, I'm putting my job on the line for Freddie Kitchens. I'm not going to let you guys fire him. It's my choice. And then they just fired him both because they needed to get rid of Freddie Kitchens that bad. Yeah. Then they finally listened to Paul DePodesta, who, fun fact, when they hired Hugh Jackson, said they should hire who is now the Bills head coach and Sean McDermott. That was who he recommended. And then the next time he suggests Kevin Stefanski. So I think Paul DePodesta kind of knows what he's doing in that role when it comes to the right people to hire, but he just wasn't listened to. For Lions fans, here's what I'll say. It may look gloomy now, but you have no idea how any of this is going to play out. There's no way that me sitting there after they blocked the A.J. McCarron trade would have thought that would put in place a chain of events that would lead somehow to Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. That there's no way that I would have thought of that. It just seems so far-fetched that not making that trade and all of that would lead to where we are today.
Yeah, dude, you bring up so many good points, and I look at Stafford and I look at the whole coaching situation. We have a lot of great pieces offensively. Offensively has not been our issue this year between Stafford and DeAndre Swift running the ball. Kenny Golladay was injured all year, and it's his contract year, so we're probably going to ship him off. That's my guess. But really, TJ Hawkinson, a tight end, he is incredible. Tight ends have we'll just say a sour taste. They've given a sour taste to Detroit Lion fans ever since Eric Ebron.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. And so when people saw that we drafted a tight end, people were pretty upset with that pick. But Hawkinson has turned out really well for us. Now, I'm just going to pivot, and I'm just going to take you one last direction here, man. You got your first playoff game this weekend against the Steelers. Obviously, we talked about Stefanski, a couple of the coaches, some guys not being there. But all in all, how do you feel going into this game?
I'm excited. I want to see what this team can do in this kind of a moment, right? I think we've seen the Browns in kind of these moments. Monday Night Football against the Ravens, that was a moment where they kind of got a little bit stomped on early on, and they came back and they almost won that game. You would like for them to close it out, but you wanted to see how they would respond in a pretty much playoff type atmosphere because, again, going back to that game, Baltimore doesn't win that game, they don't get to the playoffs. So you want to see how they would respond to a team coming at them with playoff energy and how would they respond in a big-time moment. And they did. The Tennessee game, they kind of responded. A lot of things point to the bigger the moment for this team, the more they tend to show up. I want to see them show up. And, I think it's been interesting reading the tea leaves out in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh fans are really confident that they're just going to beat the Browns this week. And I don't know how much of that confidence is legitimate for that team there. But we'll see. I'm just excited to see what they have in them. If they can get the Pittsburgh monkey off their back, because this team has not won at Pittsburgh, I think, since 2004 or something crazy like that. They just haven't won in Pittsburgh. Yeah, so it's if you can get that one off your back in the playoffs and send the Steelers home, Like,
Yeah.
I know people are going to joke, oh, that's the Browns Super Bowl. Yeah, probably, because you're going to have to play the Chiefs the next week, and we'll see what that is,
Yeah.
how healthy you are.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance you could beat the Chiefs, but, it's definitely not like is probable as beating the Steelers. But,
Yeah.
it would mean a lot for the fan base, for people's self-confidence, because even though the Browns are 11-5, you still have people who are just still used to the shoe dropping on the Cleveland Browns, right? Oh, they're gonna blow the playoff game after they lose the Jets. Oh, they're gonna lose to Mason Rudolph in the back. No, they did not do that. People are always waiting for that other shoe to drop because it's like you cannot believe this team's actually gonna be good. And I think if you beat the Steelers, that'd give everybody, all right, let's strap in, baby. Baker Mayfield, I think people will start to get strapped in and understand, like, hey, we got a good team. We got a good team here. So I get that there's adversity. I get that there's reasons to believe the Browns won't win it. But, like, come on. What I tell people all the time is, like, this is Cleveland. When has, it ever been easy for Cleveland to achieve anything in sports? Let's be honest here. For LeBron to win the NBA championship, it took one of the most heroic comebacks of all time versus the team with the best regular season record of all time. And it took LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, to anchor that. That's how hard it normally is to do this in Cleveland. That's how much adversity the sports gods just tend to give Cleveland to overcome to make these moments fit. Because you know what? If the Browns were 16-0 and just blew everybody out on the way to a Super Bowl, wouldn't feel like Cleveland. And it's always going to be like that for Cleveland. And a lot of Detroit's probably a similar way where Detroit get you've had your run of bad luck in the playoffs where it's okay, it can't come down to a kicker. People are nervous, but it's always, you have to always anticipate it's not going to be easy. I like to remind people of that whenever I'm live watching a game with the fans. I'm like, hey, when the game gets close, I'm like, did you expect this to be easy? We can't expect this to be easy. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be a ton of things that go wrong, but that does not mean that you cannot overcome and achieve.
And no, I love that, man. I love that sentiment of just being a gritty team. That's what Cleveland is. That's what a lot of these Rust Belt cities are. You mentioned Sean McDermott earlier, and what he and Brandon Beane have done in Buffalo is outrageous. It's outrageous. It's outstanding. It's a beautiful thing. And for me, I love seeing it in these Rust Belt cities like none other.
Yeah.
For teams like Buffalo that went to 4 Super Bowls and lost 4 and then haven't showed up since 95. And for a team like Cleveland, since being reorganized, seeing 1 playoff berth. This is where my heart goes out to you, to your fans, to the city of Cleveland, in the greatest of hopes to see a Buffalo-Cleveland AFC Championship game. That's what I'd like.
That'd be insane, man. I was also, to your point about it having to be a little bit difficult. When you're a kid in the backyard tossing the football to yourself, imagining you're scoring a game-winning touchdown, you're not like, hey, I'm scoring a game-clinching touchdown in the fourth quarter, up 47. Woo! No, it's always the go-ahead. You want that moment. This is what you play football for, is to have those moments. And, I'm excited to see if they're going to be ready to have that moment. Everybody's already adding DeRona to the list of the plays, right, in Cleveland, the drive, the fumble, all this stuff that they want to add to it. But you know what? Let's add some good plays, the comeback, the block, the shot. We've had that for the Cavs. Let's add some of that stuff for the Browns. Let's get rid of, we're the team that's always crying about the drive and the fumble and still mad about Joe Montana 20 years from now. I'm tired of Joe Montana. I'm tired of being mad about stuff that happened in the 80s when I wasn't even born about this team.
Sure.
I want new memories. I want new things to name things after. I want those things to be good because other franchises have them and they have them as good. So let's have it be the upset or whatever you want to call it this weekend, and not be worried about, is this going to be another bad play for Cleveland? Nah, I'm over it with that.
Dude, my man, thank you, Quincy, for just bringing the heat, bringing the knowledge. You are just a wealth of knowledge. That was incredible. It was awesome just to hear you talking about the history of the city, of your city's team, and really where you guys are today. Quincy, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with me and talk some Browns, Lions future and to see what's going to happen this weekend, man.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait, man. Thank you for having me on.
And everybody else, thank you for watching today. This was Quincy Carrier. You can check out his YouTube channel in the description. I'm going to pop a link down there. Please go over, show the man some love, subscribe, just watch his content. The content is awesome and his fan base is incredible. You will not regret it. So go check that out. And best of luck, Cleveland, this weekend.